I'm Akuda. Today I have the pleasure of being with Dr. Jean Logan. Um, she has a doctorate in holistic nutrition. You are an ordained minister of the Church of Light. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And the director of Holy Ground Farms, which provides services for Indigenous children. She is an author of Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, Sacred Symbols of Light, Symbols of the Dawn, and then you also have your own healing deck called Sacred Symbols of Healing.
Right, right.
Is there anything else you want to add to that? I mean, you're a world speaker. Your books are in 50 countries now, and
yeah, probably more, a whole lot, about 90 countries. But
90 countries.
I'm working on my fourth book right now.
Okay, fantastic, wonderful. And so, let's talk about glyphs and what are glyphs and what do they mean to you?
Okay, I just want to point out that word is glyph, G-L-Y-P-H, and a glyph is a symbol that has meaning to it. And to me, I didn't have any idea about it until all of a sudden I started, I guess that's why I came to this earth. I was either selected or volunteered to bring in, this is a language of light. This is literally a language of light. It's just different than some of the languages of light that we're hearing people say, speak, or write different little symbols. These are just glyphs. They're very simple, very elementary, almost childlike. Sometimes I get a little criticism like, oh, these are just simple little drawings, you know. Well, that's what a glyph is. That's a simple little drawing. But they're empowered. And we have a ceremony. I have a chapel that's been constructed on my land over a powerful vortex. And we have a ceremony where I invite in all the beings of light to assist in empowering them. And then when I'm given by source energy, I'm given these instructions on what to tell the glyph, and I'm often given a picture. Most times I'll be given a picture of what it should be. And then I call in all the beings of light that are willing to join us, and I ask them, well, I am reading the empowerment statement. I ask them to join us and put their energies into the glyph. And as I was saying earlier, I was told just a few months ago, I was told, you need to understand the electrical energy of the glyphs, that the glyphs send a signal to the central sun. And the central sun pulses back electrical impulses into the glyph. And that stays with the glyph as long as it's in existence. And that I need to instruct people to honor the sacredness of the glyph and then destroy it when they're no longer using it and treating it as such. And I do that. I was told by tearing it in half. Some people feel they're guided to burn it. That's fine. But just that it's treated as a sacred object.
Mm-hmm. When I do healing work and we do clearings, we take that energy and, give it to the sun to burn and be purified, so that we can reuse it. I mean, that energy gets to be recycled and we get to create with it again.
Very good.
So that's really beautiful. So tell me, how does how do these glyphs work with the body, with the cells of the body?
They pulse that energy into the body, and you can literally feel stuff coming out. When I first started, I was a mess. I was really emotionally a mess. I was a basket case. I was depressed. I had a lot of physical issues. And so I was literally guided to create these glyphs. I had received a glyph from someone else that was so powerful, and I asked my guides how to do this, and so they instructed me. And one of the first ones I created was to remove fear, because that was one of my biggest issues. I was so fearful of everything. Oh my goodness. And I put it against, after I was empowered, and printed out. I put it against my solar plexus, and I could feel stuff being drawn out of me. It was amazing. And I received a testimonial from some woman who said, she says, I put one on my grandson on his solar plexus because he had some real fear issues. And he says, Grandma, I can feel stuff coming out of me. And so that's literally what it does. And what goes in is the light. It doesn't leave a void. Light goes in. And as people are removing more stuff and more light goes in, literally we are healing the earth at the same time. If everybody were being healed, the earth would be healed.
Yeah. I think that's really profound, because as I work primarily with DNA, I find that the light in the DNA is magnetizing our body, and for the light in the glyphs. So you have two processes of light that are actually working and communicating with each other to create change in the body. And it's a very profound process. I also really love the fact, and I heard this or maybe read this in one of your books, that like, we can program the glyphs. We can make a glyph and we can program it. And that's something that I had never heard before. And I think is truly exceptional, because, a lot of people feel that their healing is outside of themselves. Yes. Like they need to wait for somebody to give it to them. And really there's just these simple tools, and we're so powerful, and we are God. And so how did you come about recognizing that you had the power to program these glyphs?
Well, when I had that first experience where someone sent me an email that had a glyph in it that was said it would remove parasites in us that held fear in us, and that we've held this since the days of Babylonia and Atlantis. And I just, the idea of a parasite holding fear in us, that really rang. Something said there that you need this. And so when I printed it out and put it on me, and I had a tremendous experience. It was just unbelievable. And I asked my guides, I didn't really know at that time that I came here to do this. I did not realize that. But I asked them how it was created, and they told me, they guided me through on how to create the glyph. And when I did this, I went on for a long, I made glyphs to remove the anger and resentment and sadness and heartache and guilt and all these. I just kept on working one right after another, never intending to put them in a book. That was not there. I wasn't worried about everybody out there. I was only worried about me, because I was such a mess and I needed help. And it didn't happen overnight. I just started feeling a little better and a little better and a little better. And I just was, and so then after a while, I was told, you need to get this out there for other people to use, because it's such a powerful they're tools. And like you say, they're tools. And one thing I tell people, tools only work if you use them. So when you get the book, or they're also in digital, when you get them, if they just sit there, they're not going to do anything. So I encourage people, tools only work if you use them.
Mm-hmm. And they only work with the power of consciousness. Like you really need to believe that they work. You need to know that they work.
People say that, do I have to believe in them for them to work? And I say no, because they work fabulously on animals, just amazing. And they don't believe anything. Animals don't care. They're just there. But the advantage with animals is they have no judgment.
They have no judgment.
They have no ego.
Mm-hmm.
And they have no expectations. People say, well, how long do I have to use this? How many days? How long?
Yes.
I can't tell them. You just use it, and, just start using a tool. It's like buying a hoe for the garden and say, well, how long do I have to use this? You just keep using it until you accomplish what you want to accomplish. But the problem I find people, though, is if they have a lot of skepticism or doubts, that puts out an energy. Everything is energy, and expectations is energy. And so that has to get, they have to get that out of the way. And so I tell them, think like a dog. Don't think about it. You know, the people that it works best for are the ones who open the book and they say, oh yes. And then that works best for those, especially healers, because healers are so open. They just know, oh yeah, I know, it's a type of energy healing. Yeah. It's amazing. They're literally amazing, and they have performed miracles. I've just had recently a dog, my neighbor's dog. It was a little 15-year-old Chihuahua, and it couldn't eat anymore. It couldn't even drink. I mean, it was really on death's door, and they took it to the vet, and he said it had kidney failure. He says, I recommend you have it put to sleep, and they wouldn't do that. And so I used a surrogate. I used a teddy bear on this case, and I put some glyphs on the solar plexus and on the kidneys, and then I was told that he had canker sores in his throat so bad he couldn't swallow. And so I put canker sores are a viral, and so I put a glyph to resolve the viral and also to speed the healing. And the next day he was drinking water. 2 days later he was eating again. And a week after that incident, they brought him over to show me how well he was doing. So they have on several occasions prevented a dog from being, or animals from being put to sleep, because kidney and liver problems are so common in pets, and there's not much the doctors can do for them. There's not much they can do.
Yeah.
So, and the glyphs, they can do it. The glyphs can clean out the liver. The glyphs can clean out the kidneys and get them, you know, within time. Of course, an elderly dog is going to have issues of elderly people. And just like people, at first I would tell people, these are for you. Don't worry about your grandfather and all that. But people want to do that. They want to help their father and their mother and their grandfather. And so one woman, she wrote me and she said she put them on her 89-year-old father, they wanted to do a pacemaker operation, which is insane on an 89-year-old man. But she put the glyph on his heart for the heart glyph and for the lungs. And she said 2 weeks he had a checkup and they said he didn't need the pacemaker. Just a simple thing like that can make an elderly person's life at least more manageable when they get older. It's not going to pull them back from, you know, perfect health. That's just not realistic. But it can make elderly people. So I said I was wrong. I take a step back. If you want to use them on your grandfather, once you got them, use them any way you want to use them.
Right. Because the intention is the most important thing.
Right.
You know, the intention of the programming of how you're using something. And, you know, what you were talking about, the frequency of parasites, you know, when a person has, you know, parasites in their stomach or whatever, there's a frequency that a person has to lower to. And I think it's like 56 megahertz for like that disease to start setting into an area. And so basically what's happening with these glyphs is that you are bringing in a new frequency into that area and healing that frequency, so that those you know, cancer and parasites and, you know, heart condition like this really just can't thrive there, because the frequency starts to rave. So the tissues heal, the biometrics of the body start to heal, and you become, you know, an essential whole again and connected again to your body matrix.
Right. We've had several experiences of breast cancer being resolved, and one man, prostate cancer was resolved.
Beautiful.
So that's to me, that's just fantastic. I encourage people also to use them as a preventative, I guess you could call it, or general housekeeping. I say, go ahead and put some of those in your bra, just for general principles. And then for a man, over the sacral chakra, because prostate cancer is almost epidemic. I mean, cancer is epidemic. I mean, with all of the stuff we're getting in our food and everything that they're throwing at us, cancer is just overwhelming. And the same with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And I healed my dog of dementia. He started defecating in the house, and he didn't know where he was. He was like a zombie. And so again, I used a surrogate for him. And I put on the top of the crown, and the book has pictures of the chakras for the animals as well as people. And so on the teddy bear, I put a glyph to heal the damaged brain, one for neurological healing, and one for detoxification, because it could be aluminum with animals as well as people.
Mm-hmm.
And he never defecated in the house again. And within a day or two, he was back to normal. He was an elderly dog, but he was still functioning mentally again. And that was really, I didn't want to lose him that fast. You know, we love our pets, and we just we don't want to lose them. We know eventually that they're going to go, but we want to make their late years as comfortable and great as possible.
Yeah. I have had many powerful experiences with symbols. You know, years ago in my early 20s, I studied Reiki for about 6 or 7 years with somebody under somebody's tutelage. And I know the power of symbols. But what I really think is unique is that, like I said before, you saying that we can make our own symbols and program our own symbols. And I just, again, I want to say that is so profound, and thank you for bringing that, because, you know, it's not outside of us, it's within us. And
right, anybody could make glyphs that would do, but getting them out there to people, that is a tremendous task.
Yeah.
I've been blessed where it's been a very expensive proposition, and a lot of work. But I've been given what I need to do to make that happen. So
yeah,
I'm always taken care of. I'm really taken care of, and I'm always protected, because I don't think the FDA would really embrace me too well.
Yeah, I hear that. Just recently, I posted something about DNA work, and, you know, like Facebook took it down. Like they just didn't like what it said, and they weren't willing to go there, and that's okay. But you know, we're those people who are the pioneers of new information, and we're going to have our critics and our skepticism, and that's great. You know, that means we're challenging people to think. So bring it.
So far they haven't been gone after me. I'm blessed, but there's times I will just get an email with a word, like a friend said she bought some doggy treats from Chewy, and all of a sudden I'm getting ads for Chewy. I mean, she wrote that in an email, and all of a sudden I'm getting ads from. And I talked once about a site called GoDaddy, and all of a sudden GoDaddy ads are coming there. I mean, I said that in front of my computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So I would like to know, what is the difference, because the names of a couple of your books are different, and between glyphs and symbols of light, and can you talk about, is there a difference there for you, or are they coming from different frequencies, or?
No, not really. The first book I did, and this was the very first edition, the first of the cover that was different. I changed the cover afterward, but I just thought of that name, the Unlocking the Power of Glyphs, because that's what they are. They're glyphs, they're little pictures. And let me just show a couple of them. And I don't know where I got the names of the sacred symbols of light and symbols of the dawn, but I was told what the next book would be called. And I was told it would be Sacred Symbols of the New Age. So given that name, I felt like that was, but I just, they're just simple little drawings. Sometimes they're actually quite cartoon looking. There may be a stick figure for the chakras. I have a stick figure where some colored dots where the chakras are. So no, there's really no difference between I just felt the word symbols sounded a little bit, at first people say, well, what are glyphs? Well, I just kind of wanted to remove that, people wondering what is a glyph. So I'll say symbols and glyphs, you know. But one woman who said, well, I thought it was sacred geometry. I said, no, a glyph is not sacred geometry. It's just, they're just little, you know, a bird maybe just a little wings, you know. So just little glyphs, but there's no difference. I just got into, I think I must have been given that second title, Sacred Symbols of Light.
Mm-hmm.
But I was definitely given the title for the next book. I was told, this is what the title will be. And I'm branching off into a little bit more, and I did that in my third book because I have glyphs that will help repel certain pests in the garden. In some of the, not all, there's a lot of physical glyphs in the third book, but I was getting into a little bit more of something different, and I will be doing that again with the fourth book, because we have to be able to work with our environment where we don't have to use chemicals, and it's all frequencies. And if you can put something out there, a glyph, and it won't be a piece of paper. When I get out there in the garden, I'm going to have to come up with some substantial way of having something hanging or existing in the garden that the weather will not affect. I do put the glyphs out there now, but they fade. I put them out in a little laminated pouch or something. But that's not the ideal way if I'm going to get out there and help in the garden. And I was just asked by someone, can you make a glyph to keep the groundhogs out of the garden? And I thought, wow, that's a challenge. So I asked, I said, can this be done? And I was told, yes, it can be done. But then I was told that I would want help. I mean, I would have to have spirit work with me on how the best way to do it. And it's going to have to be more than a little piece of paper. It's fine to put a piece of paper on your solar plexus because that really works. But having it somewhere out in the garden where it's going to tell the groundhogs to leave the garden alone, that's getting a little bit more involved. So
Yeah.
I'm branching.
I keep getting like a channel, like a grid system of symbols, you know, where like you run a whole grid through your garden of symbols, kind of like a crystal grid, but you know, with glyphs and symbols instead.
That's an idea. That's an idea. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. And then I wanted to go ahead.
That might be the thing to do. You might be right.
Well, that's why we're having this conversation.
Right.
we each get to co-create and share something of ourselves, right, and
right.
You know, walk away with, you know, different knowledge or a way of thinking that we didn't, you know, realize before. Or so it's really beautiful. And then I wanted to ask about your doctorate in holistic nutrition and how nutrition also plays a part with the glyphs and like the frequency of the glyphs. And then do you do any type of like elixirs with herbs and the energies of the glyphs to help people?
No, I have learned that I can convert the glyphs into homeopathics.
Okay.
And I have a piece of equipment that can convert them, but you don't need that. You can do that with the power of your mind. You could just, so I've converted some into homeopathics, but I haven't done with herbs so much. I'm really big into herbs. I mean, I have herbal tea every morning. And when I say herbal, I'm not talking about a tea bag. I mean, I have jars of herbs with labels on them.
I actually see herbs all around you. When I'm looking at you, I see I see animals and I see herbs and plants like all around you.
Really? Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. But yeah, and I love the animals, and I even love the critters. But you reach a point where, you know, sometimes I ask, well, what do we do when we I have a glyph that says to keep the yellow jackets or the wasps at bay. And I said, well, tell them to leave. That works real well with black ants. I can literally talk to them. And I've just told the mice to get out of my garage. But if they don't listen, then do what you have to do. We don't ever want to really kill things, but sometimes you can't let them invade and damage things. And here in the mountains, the mice are a real problem. And so I just tell them, look, get out here. I leave the door open, get out now, or you're going to die. That's it.
So let's talk about when you're using a glyph for detoxification. Can you tell me a little bit about the process that happens when you're using a glyph for detoxification of the body?
Okay, let me show you a good example here. Let's say you want to detoxify your liver. All right, we'll start with the liver. And so this is a glyph for detoxification. All right. And then it has, each glyph has what's called a patch page. It has 16 of those glyphs. And so for the detoxification, if you want to detoxify your liver, I tell them to cut 4 of these, or print out and cut 4 of these. And I tell them to add the parasite glyph with it too. And then take those strip of 4 and tape it underneath the rib cage on the right side. And you only need to do the parasite glyph once the first time. The detoxification you can do as many times as you'd like, but most people, especially women, we women are more sensitive. You can feel it drawing out. You can just feel it drawing stuff out. But for detoxification, you could take a strip of 8 of them and put it underneath your feet at night. And you could tape it to an insert or just put it in a loose booty at night. And also what I tell people to do, this glyph will take out any heavy metal and any chemical. Every heavy metal, every chemical that is harmful to the body. And I encourage people to take that detoxification and put it on your crown chakra, because we all hear a lot about aluminum being one, and then we're getting all these chemtrails. I don't know if you're getting them out in California at this time.
Yeah.
But we've been getting them on and off. They had stopped for a while, but they're back again. But one of the things they have is aluminum particles in there and barium and stuff. And so you put that on your crown chakra at night, and I use a bobby pin or even just a simple piece of cellophane tape, because it doesn't stick that well, just to get it to clean out that brain, because it can really make a difference. As I said, with what I did for my dog with dementia, if it were a human, I would add a glyph to the back of the neck for circulation, because the circulation glyph can literally clear plaque out of the arteries. And one of the problems with dementia, one of the causes, is that these arteries get filled up with plaque, and then there's a lack of oxygen to the brain. Mm-hmm. So if they can clean out some of that, and I could feel that myself when I first put it on, I could feel something going on here in the neck. It can help a lot. And I had one testimonial where they had put this on their grandfather or father. I think it was a grandfather. And he could feel it, and he could tell the difference. And they said he had Alzheimer's, and he had improved. And then he really liked the glyphs. And at night, he would ask them to put the glyphs on him. That's great for old people, because a lot of old people are just kind of like, this is strange stuff that they're doing. They're not open to. But that's surprising, because that doesn't usually happen. But he wanted his glyphs on at night.
That's wonderful. I also know that you work with special needs. Do you use the glyphs with special needs? I work with special needs adults a lot, and I'm just curious, do you use these glyphs for autism? Or, because again, a lot of autism, if you look at the research, has a lot of heavy metals in the brain and in the body. So I'm just curious if you use these glyphs for autism or any type of...
There is a glyph to remove vaccinations and repair the damage that has been done. but I don't personally. My goal is to get it out there, and I try to join little groups and to especially like with the vaccinations, and I will put that information out there. And if they're receptive to it, that's fine. If they're not, I just let it go, because I've tried to, for a while, you're out there trying to help everybody. But then I have to realize that people are being guided to come to me. I get a lot of people that say, when I heard you on the radio, I was right away, I knew, or my neighbor told me I really need, people are being guided to approach me. And so I ask, because sometimes I get on Facebook and somebody's got this problem, and I would make a post and I asked about it, and I was told, let them come to you. Let them come to you, because if they are to do it, they will be guided to you. So no, I don't search out any group. And as far as autistic, sometimes it's possible autistic children are that way because they have something going on in higher consciousness that needs to be addressed. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes too, some people, they may have an agreement when they come in. Now, where that goes with the vaccinations, I don't really know, but I try to back away from pushing any agenda, and just put them out there as much as I can. Get on every opportunity like this, yeah. Which I'm so grateful for.
Oh, it's so great to have you.
Listen to you, and that's supposed to,
Yeah. I'm here. Why this was created was, to really bring a community of people so that we can all start working together and share information, and to help us move past, those things that have been blocking us from living, the fullness of our potential and who we really are. I know that you have, we actually have similar paths of fear and, being around addiction and stuff like that. And this is, people are looking for tools, and they're looking for a community of support. And I know, again, because I work with adults with special needs, is that people are really looking for just answers on all kinds of levels, from the very physical up to that, these special individuals might be bringing in a new consciousness for us, so it's the gamut of information, and whatever people gravitate to, wherever they're at, that's the beauty of it. Because these are all just like little pieces of the matrix that, is forming our life. And, we get to tap into where we're at. I know that one of your messages that you really wanted to talk about was helping women recognize the power of claiming their power. And
one of the things a lot of people, and I was the same way, why am I here? Why did I come here? And the problem with that is there's so much stuff we're holding that is covering that. And so it's like the proverbial, the red onion with all the layers. And that's why I encourage them, when they start with the glyphs, to use the healing, the emotional healing glyphs, the ones to remove anger, sadness, on, and again, and again, and again, and keep using them, because the more that, I didn't know why I was here. When I started this, I didn't have a clue. And I had a reading by the woman who wrote the first glyph I had seen that came to me on an email. And she said, this is why you're here, to bring in this language of light. And it was kind of like, went over my head. I just thought, I just didn't see it at that time. But the more you use it, and the more layers that you're taking off inside there, that's who you really are. And all of a sudden, it's like the door opens, the window opens, the light comes in, and you get little by little, you are guided, and you understand that's why you're here. This is what you need to be doing. And for me, before I had no clue. Now, I mean, this is my whole life. I could not do anything else. I could not do anything else. If I to go and just lay on the beach, I can't do that. I may take a week off and lay on the beach, but I have to keep doing this. This is my job.
Yeah, I feel that way about DNA work, and the layers and frequencies of DNA is really when you start tapping into the different layers of DNA and the different frequencies of DNA, they really are, we're accessing more of like who we came here to be, you know,
Right.
the light that's inside of us, the highest light that's inside of us, and being able to express that through the 3D body. And then before we end today, I would love to give you an opportunity to talk about your foundation of the Holy Ground Farms, and what services you provide and what you're really doing there, and to allow people to know about this so that if they would like to support you in some way, because it's truly a special gift that you are giving, and you know, you get to be supported too in that journey. So
I just have always pictured, I live on 100 acres of land up here in the mountains, and across the road from me, a half mile up, there's another, for some reason we bought this land. It was an all or nothing. There were 2 parcels, and there's 58 acres of land across the street. And we donated that to the nonprofit. And I've always pictured a big building there, and I see children running around. And I never understood, what are they? Are we healing them? Are they American children? Are they foreign children? And I have all the answers to that. But what I was guided to do in the meantime is to help indigenous children who have they're homeless. And we're supporting an orphanage in Nepal and remote schools in Nepal, because there are countries that education is not free. If you have money, your kids go to school. If you don't have any money, too bad. And if you're in a rural area, nothing. So we have been supporting this work here in Nepal, and we did some in Peru, and we did some in Africa, in Uganda. But the land is still there, and other than a primitive campground, I just have to wait. I kind of have to turn it over to spirit. I just have to turn it over, that I'm told it will happen. It will happen. And I just have to see in my mind the right people coming to join me and provide that support. But right now, I'm so busy with the glyphs that I don't necessarily feel bad that hasn't happened. But the land is there, and things have happened. Someone volunteered to put some roads in for us in exchange for some fallen trees from a hurricane. So all of a sudden we had roads, and then I needed a fenced-in area where my dogs could run, because they would run off if I'd let them loose. And so all of a sudden I have a campground, and so that's slowly taking shape, and it'll all come. And I just trust. That's the biggest thing. As a matter of fact, one night in the middle of the night, I heard the word trust. So maybe I could show the pictures of my books.
I would love to.
Okay, I showed you the first one. That was later. The cover was redesigned. That's a new redesigned book, and that's the first book, Unlocking the Power of Glyphs. And this has basically a lot of the emotional healing glyphs, the detoxification, and one to kill bacteria and viruses. And it should knock out just about everything. And this was the second book, and this has a lot of more physical issues. There are glyphs there for every organ and gland that we can have. But I encourage people to understand that all physical issues stem from emotional issues. Yes. So that's why I encourage them to do their homework with the emotional healing. And this is the third book, Symbols of the Dawn. I got that idea from Barbara Marciniak's book that she wrote. What was that? Children of the Dawn, whatever it was. That was years ago. And then I didn't really want to do cards, but people kept fussing at me that they said, oh, we want the glyphs in cards. We want them in cards. So finally, I went ahead and I went along with the idea of cards. They turned out great. I used the same printer that the Hay House uses. That's just top quality. They have 72 healing cards in there, and people love them. So I thought that's great. If that, you know, and like I said, I'm working on the fourth book. It's a labor of love. It's a labor of love.
Yeah. Jean, I was so very touched about what you're doing for the Indigenous children and your mission there. And it's interesting because I have studied in Africa, Peru, India. I'm also Indigenous, and I've spent many years with the Indigenous in North America. And I would love to just put a blessing on what you're doing from the Most High. And I'm just going to take a minute and just kind of may your life's work be so blessed. Maybe offer the fullness of your heart to this community. May everything show up as you need it, with love.
Thank you. I could feel that. I really could feel that. Thank you so much. I really, my heart goes out. There's so many children in need that we can't, it seems like what I do is just a drop in the bucket, but on the other hand, you've got to start somewhere. We've got to start somewhere.
And it's you know, it's a ripple effect. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry because I really feel you right now in your heart when you were talking about that. And you know, it's a ripple effect, and for every life that we come in contact, we get to change with our light. And you know, our mission isn't to change the whole world, it's to love and be the light with whatever's in front of us at that moment. And that's where the miracle happens, and that's how we change the world. And right. Yeah, so Jean, thank you so much. And do you have any last words or anything that you'd like to say before we end?
I would just like to tell people, every one of you out there is divine. You all have the power of God. And if you want to know exactly why you're here, just say, I want to be guided to the right person, the right book, the right answer. I want answers, and you will get them. If you ask for answers, you will get them. And believe in your power. Believe in your power.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jean.
Thank you.
Many blessings to you in your life and all around you and the work that you're doing. You are such a gift, and thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Bless you.
Bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.